Thank you so much for joining me today. It is going to be a Christmas in July project. I'm featuring this cute Crafter's Companion stamp set with an adorable penguin. It's called A Gift From Me To You. It's a 5-piece stamp set. You've got 4 sentiments and then the really cute penguin stamp on there. So we're going to keep it, I'll say, fairly simple. I usually do for batch making Christmas cards. We are going to do some fun inking on the background though. We're going to make a snowy background using some Distress Oxide inks. And for my base I'm going to use some Pink Frog Super Smooth card, and we're going to ink the background. But first of all, I'm just going to show you a little trick, because I'm going to stamp the image first. But obviously I don't want the snowy sky to come all the way down, because otherwise the penguin is going to end up with a blue tummy and face, and I want to keep those both white. So I've gone ahead and I've stamped out the image, and I've cut it on my Scan and Cut. Let me just see, there we are. So if you don't have a Scan and Cut, of course you can fussy cut this, but I've used some Hunkydory masking paper. So it's like this sort of tissue type of effect material on the front, and then it's got the plastic backing which you pull away, and then you've got a repositionable adhesive on the back. So once you've made this, so if you are fussy cutting it, once you've made it, then you just keep it with the stamp set, and then it's good to go, you know, a fair few more times, so you don't have to fussy cut it out every single time. If you do have the Scan and Cut, you could also stamp a whole load of them. If you want to just do it slightly alternatively, stamp a whole load and let the machine cut it out. You can choose the amount of border. I think I did 0.08 on this one. Just do a whole load of them, and then you've got them to just sit in front of the TV and colour them in, and then you're good to go. You've basically got your topper that you can put on cards for some nice batch making. So the first thing I'm going to do is stamp out the penguin onto the base card, which measures 9.5 by 13.9, I think. Then let me just pop that down. I don't want that there really, because it won't stamp, and pretty much fits exactly the bottom of the card, which is nice. Whoops, got a little bit missing there. Let's bring him in a bit. Okay, close the lid, and I'm using StazOn because I plan on using some watercolour pencils with this, so you will need the StazOn ink to use with water. Now the super smooth card will take the water really nice. I'm obviously not going to saturate it like watercolouring, but I will be able to add a little bit of water, and it's going to be a fairly simple image to colour in anyway. It's not like super loads of blending or anything like that. I'm going to keep it quite naive looking. Okay. Nice thing about the stamping platform is that I can go over it. Like I've lost this little, I'll call it a hand. And I find that, especially when I'm doing sentiments, I like to go back over it more than once, because that way I get a more intense, sharp looking sentiment as well. Alrighty, so that is my little penguin all stamped out. I shall take that away and bring in that masked image. Just take off this backing. Oops, try not to tear it. It's delicate. Okay, and I'm just going to literally stick that over the top of that stamped image. not massively bothered that I've got gaps here. And then the scan and cut, you more clever scan and cut users probably know how to do this, but I didn't really like the extra little line here, so I just chose to cut that portion away. Alrighty, let's bring in some inks. So I'm going to start with Tumbled Glass. Just turn your work to face you. Then we're going to come in with some faded jeans. Feels a bit like this guy out here today. I keep saying we're going to get a heat wave, but it feels pretty chilly to me, and I'm always hot. Okay. Now I'm going to go back in with that Tumbled Glass. I tend to just keep one brush for blues, one for reds, one for greens, you get the idea. And this particular set of blending tools was very inexpensive from Amazon. I'll link it down for you in the description. Okay. There we go. And I'm gonna bring in some Hickory Smoke. What you could do is just have this, have double the amount and do two at the same time and just cut it down. And I'm gonna do a little bit of black soot. Let's just cover my ink pads because I am very messy. A little bit at the bottom. Alrighty, so now let me just clean this up. Now I'm gonna bring in my Craft Artist Pearlized ink, and I have just popped it on a little bit of red card earlier so you can get an idea of how pearly that is. But all it's going to do for us is be our snow. So they just slide out like this, and I'm just going to put a little bit on my mat, squish it in. Oops, try it the right way up. And use my water brush just to pick a little bit up, and then I'm gonna flick. Voila, we have snow. So you're going to have water as well, so it will take a little bit of the colour away because it's distress oxide. I'm just going to add a little bit more ink actually. Just slightly less wet. Okay, now I'm going to take a heat tool to it because obviously I need it dry to carry on. So there's your, so it's partly taken the colour away and then partly it's got that pearly snowflake look to it. It's definitely a blizzard on that card. I'm not friends with snow, but it looks pretty. Right, so let's peel back our mask. And we have our little penguin. You can, of course, go for less of a border, but I don't actually hate that. Okay, popped it back on the plastic backing for now, and that's going to go in with the stamp set, so I have that for next time. So let's do a little bit of watercolouring. I'm mainly using these are Nuvo Tonic Studios watercolour pencils. So most of the colours are going to, well, bar one, are coming from this brilliantly vibrant set. And I'm just going to use the grey from the elementary mid-tones, because pretty much all the colours that I want are on in this first set here. And the way I like to do it is just, I just have a little palette happening by scribbling onto a piece of card with the colour I'm going to use. So the first one I'm going to use is the Raven Black. So I'm literally just scribbling on, and then I'm picking up the colour from the piece of paper, and I'm going to paint it on to the card. It's actually a little bit too wet, that brush. It's a pretty remarkable card though, considering it's not watercolour card. And don't forget, it's always going to dry lighter than it looks right now. As you can see, I'm quite casual when I do my colouring. I don't worry too much. When it's watercolour pencils, you can be pretty free. Right, and let's do his scarf. Is going to be in red. Scribble that on there. then we'll have the hat in red. Took me a little while to remember which way around. And then whilst we've got some red, let's do some of the presents. Red bow, I think so. Yours will be a bit tidier than mine. Because I'm doing this, I quite often fast forward the colouring, but I'm doing this in real time. I feel like I'm fast forwarding it by myself. I think I'll do all of the bows in red. Because that's kind of cute. Okay, so what shall we have? Let's do, I'm going to go just direct in with the Tangerine Tango for his little beak, and then directly in for his feet. And then I also want a little bit of pink. It is called Cotton Candy for those rosy cheeks. And then let me just bring in that grey that I said to you about. This is natural stone. And I'm just going to do a little bit of accenting with it. Just clean my brush a little. I'm just going to come around, create a little bit of shadow around the tum and around his face. Basically anywhere where I've got some white, I'm going to go around with this just to highlight a little bit. And I'm going to do, oops, keep making this super wet. Just a little bit more. I'm going to go around where I've got the white space. So we've made our own little shadow. Okay. That's looking cute. Alrighty, now I'm going to colour in the, what shall I do next? Let's do the sledge. It is cocoa bean. We need to colour in those presents, so let's go with Spring Daffodil. Let's not mix them in with the brown. Wonder who he's given these to. Maybe he's just collected them. Maybe they're for him. will use, I know I accented a little bit in that grey, but I'm using this white space as well, just leaving it. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is just, let me just give that a little blast with the heat tool. I'm going to go back in with the pencils, but dry, just to add in the shading. And the artist has already added where the shading needs to go. And I'm just literally following where they have already drawn that. And I just will bring in my pencil, but my brush just fairly dry, and just add that shading. And then again with the black. He's coming to life. You could of course add some glitters and all of the fun things. So don't be afraid to just keep going back in until you're happy. Just going to bring a little bit of that grey where the shadow would fall under the scarf. That's where the artist has put the shading. And I'm going to add a little bit more here. And let's go back in here as well. So just think of your watercolour pencils as just a very clean watercolour palette. Let's go in. I need to sharpen my pencils really. It's a bit late now, isn't it? Just going to go and really intensify that as well. So it's more of a building up thing when you're using these pencils. You might, depending on the image, you might just choose to leave it really washy looking. Managed to put red on there. Okay, now we've got fire. Okay, and last but not least, I'm going to see how I'm using these. I'm not actually adding any other colour other than red on those presents. And let's come in with the shading on here as well. And a little bit grey. Okay, and I'm going to leave that at that because I could go on all day and that would be boring for you. Let's put those back in the right one. Okay, let's tidy those away and we're going to finish this card off. We're nearly there. Okay, so for my matte colour, I've got a red. and this measures 10 by 14 centimeters. So let's get that glued on. And then my card base, I've basically cut A4 card. So this would be an A4 piece of us together. So cut it in half on the short side, which is 10.5 centimeters, and then score it at 14.9 centimeters, because I actually want it to fold out this way, just a little different, I should say, otherwise it won't make any sense. So we'll add that on. I'm not going to pop that up or anything. And we're going to use one of those cute sentiments. I've already pre-cut, stamped and cut a sentiment, so I'm using the Dashing Through the Snow sentiment, and I've just used these Stampin' Up ones. I don't know if they still do them, but they're basically stitched framelits that come in all different circles, ovals and squares, which are really handy. So I am going to pop this one up on some 3D foam. Let's just use some tape for speed. Do a couple of bits. So I'm going to have that sort of at a little angle like that, and then I've taken some baker's twine, but I've unraveled it. So once you unravel it, you're going to get all the different strands. So there's the red strands, the white strands somewhere. So basically it looks like this, because I didn't want it as chunky as it looks. I wanted it slightly lighter looking. So I've basically, so let's just cut it off, unravel the strands, and I've used all of the strands that you get when you unravel that piece, if that makes sense. And I'm going to put that on with a little glue dot. Place that in the center. Arrange those. You can still see the sentiment if you just push that to one side. And that, my friends, is it. One cute little penguin on his way to either take his presents home or deliver them to someone. I'll let you make up your mind. And yeah, give this a little go and get a head start on those Christmas cards, so no mad panics in December. Thanks so much for joining me today. I will see you all really, really soon. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.